Zac Purton was a sensation when he began his riding career in Brisbane. He won the senior premiership when he was still an apprentice in 2003. He moved to Sydney, but not even Sydney was big enough to hold him because the world was beckoning his talents. He moved to Hong Kong at the start of the 07-08 season, and there were some rocky times, as there always is for jockeys who start in Hong Kong, but since then, it's record after record after record. 6 premierships in all, the most number of wins in a season. There's only 2 meetings a week, 179 winners in 22-23. The most prize money for his mounts in a season, a staggering 277 million Hong Kong dollars. That's about 55 million Australian dollars. We'd all like 10% of that plus slings, wouldn't we, Will Freedman? I could go on and on. But the best thing is, when the big meetings roll around, he catches the red eye and he comes out here and we get to see his talents on Australian soil. Zac Purton, beaming in from Hong Kong, welcome to the Heart of Racing.
It's a nice intro you've got there for me. Appreciate that.
Well, Zac, it's true. Like, it is record after record. You're a rock star in Hong Kong.
Yeah, well, it's not bragging if it's true, right? So we'll go with it.
Exactly. Like, hey, when you went there at the start, Zac, were you thinking this is a 15-year, 20-year thing as it's turned out for yourself and your wife, Nicole?
No, I originally come here to fulfill the 6-month contract that I was originally given. I'd seen that every jockey that had left Australia and gone to Hong Kong had then gone back to Australia a much improved rider and much improved business person, and they'd gone to the upper echelon of the riders in Australia. Not that I wasn't sort of already there, but I was sort of working my way to that position.
You were almost there. Almost there.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, when I was in Sydney, Darren Beeben was the stable rider for the all-conquering Crown Lodge, so he was pretty hard to tackle at that time. But running second to him both years I was in Sydney was not a bad achievement in itself. But I just wanted to take myself to the next level, and I thought I'd come over here, gain the experience, and the plan was to go back to Australia and then try and get right to the top. But something about this place, even though it was so difficult in those early stages, those early years, I just love the racing. I love the city. I love the culture. And I decided to stick it out for a little bit longer. There was a time when I did want to go home, but Nicole decided she wanted to stay. And as most women do, they get their way. And thankfully she did, because it's worked out well.
Yeah, when you obviously, when you started, you didn't start slowly by any means. It's a very difficult place, Neil, to get momentum, because a lot of the Hong Kong client, they ride on luck and momentum. What was the turning point for you, Zac, when you first went to Hong Kong, where you went, nah, I'm going to make it here?
I just remember thinking I wasn't given many opportunities early on, and every time I was given an opportunity on a horse that I thought could win, I did win on it. So I thought, if I can just get more opportunities, I think I can ride more winners, and then we'll see what happens. But when I first arrived, it was very different to what it is now. You didn't have any managers, you didn't have anyone to help you out. You basically got off the plane, you were dumped in the apartments, and you were left to fend for yourself. And I walked into an environment where there were a number of jockeys that had been here for 10 or 15 years. And as you know, when you're here for that amount of time, you've built up the connections with the owners and the trainers, and they're more willing to give jockeys the opportunities on the horses that they already have a connection with. They've been successful for them. They know who they are. They know what they can do. Why are they going to give this young kid that they can't even pronounce his name a go on a horse that they basically don't know about? So it was just really hard to get an opportunity, and it wasn't until towards the end of the first season when Glenn Boss, funny enough, had a falling out with Ricky Yu, and Ricky come to me and said, I don't have a jockey riding for my stable at the moment. I like what I see from you. Would you like to come and ride for me? And I said, well, I'm not riding for anyone else, so yeah, I'll take what I can get. And in that last month of the season, I rode 10 winners. And if you ride 10 winners in a month here in Hong Kong, you're absolutely flying, because we only race for 10 months a year. So if you do 10 by 10, that's 100 winners in a season, and only 3 jockeys in history have ridden 100 or more winners in a season here. So that really gave me the confidence and the belief that I could come back the next season and try and get a little bit more support and try and build off that. And I come back and it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. In that second season, I had to sort of start from the bottom again, but I had a little bit more of a support base, and a few months in, things started to get going.
When you talk like the Sydney jockeys, and I know you're still friends with a lot of the Sydney jockeys, they will always talk about how competitive the room is in Sydney and how tough it is in Sydney. Try and give us some insight about the challenges and why Hong Kong is such a tough place. A lot of good jockeys have tried to make their way in Hong Kong and have come back. They haven't been able to make it work. What are some of those challenges for them?
So firstly, you're not allowed to have a manager here. So you need to trace your own rides, you need to do your own bookings, you need to plan ahead. And it's not just the bookings on race day. We have to book our barrier trials, we have to book our track work. And with that, politics come into play. If a certain trainer or a certain owner have been giving you some opportunities and all of a sudden you don't want to ride their horse again on race day, or you don't want to turn up for track work, or you've got other rides to ride, in the barrier trials, they can quickly go off you. So politically, it's a really, really difficult place to keep everyone happy. And you've got to remember, we only have at the moment 21 trainers on the roster. So if you're out of favour with, even 5 or 6 of those trainers, you're left with only 15 trainers to try and work with. And it's really difficult to find the right balance. But the biggest thing is our racing. We are very quick from the gates. We're very quick to get positions. Our races are run at a strong tempo. But it's not like in Australia where you just jump out of the gates, you cruise along, you fall into a position, you fall asleep until you get to the 400-metre mark, and then you try and navigate a path home. Here, there are so many things happening in the races. The tempo's changing. Jockeys are making mid-race moves. You've got to be alert and aware all the time. And I just think that the ferocious pace of our races, and the things that happen within the races, I think it throws a lot of jockeys off, and it can take quite some time to start to feel comfortable and get used to that.
How have you been so successful, though, Zach, navigating all that? Do you just try and ride your own race while all this is going on around you? Because we watch the races from Hong Kong here, and you can tell the pace is unbelievable. It's helter-skelter.
I think firstly, riding in southeast Queensland, in Brisbane, and those country tracks in northern New South Wales, where getting horses out of the gates, getting them up, getting them running, getting them into positions. I think that's really given me a good tool set to be successful in this environment. So that certainly helps. I'm an aggressive rider as well, so I like to get up the horses a bit and make sure that they're on their game and they're switched on. So that helps. I'm sort of an aggressive competitor. I don't give an inch. I don't expect an inch. At the end of the day, it's the law of the jungle. We're all out there trying to do the best that we can for ourselves, and that's sort of sums up the way our racing is. But I've got a bit of a thick skin. I don't let too many things worry me, and I think sometimes as a sportsman, if your confidence gets down a little bit and you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable and things aren't going right, then it's very easy to put your head under the pillow and try and block things out. But I'm a little bit the opposite. I sort of jump out of bed and try and take things head on.
Do you think you'll be there a while? Like you're 40 years of age now. Like, am I allowed? Or you're going to be 39 for the rest of your life, like my wife?
I had a little mini life crisis when I turned 40. It was just something about my scales have got my name and my age on them when I step on them. And all through my 30s, I was fine with the 3 coming up, and the number after it didn't worry me. But as soon as that 4 come up, I was in a bit of a spin.
Well, you look at Ollie. You've still got plenty of time left.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he enjoys what he does, Ollie, doesn't he? But I think as a sportsman, you got a shelf life. You can't go on forever. I would prefer to retire while I'm at the top, or considered to still be doing well at what I'm doing, than on the way out when I'm getting my ass kicked out the door. So I don't know how much longer I've got left in me. My body will probably tell me that. But I had planned 10 years ago. I decided I was going to retire when I was 40. 40 come around, and I'm still going around.
Yeah.
So, I
But on this point, like you've won every race describable in Hong Kong.
I think he was the first jockey to ride every Group 1 in Hong Kong. The first rider to do that.
And you've ridden Group 1s in Japan, Australia,
Cup.
at Ascot. Like, what motivates you now? Like, you've now broken the record for the most wins in a season. Is there still a carrot dangling there that you want to achieve?
Yeah, there's something called a Melbourne Cup. I'd love to win that. It's a hard race to win, as everyone knows. You know, you need so many things to go right. It's a handicap. You need to have the horse with the right weight, the right draw, the right track conditions on the day, and there's so many different things can happen within that race with different movements, and you know, you just got to be in the right spot at the right time. So it's incredibly hard to win it, but you know, that is the goal, and that's what I'm still searching for. But closer to home here, what else is there for me to do? Nothing really. I've sort of done everything that a jockey can do here, but what keeps me motivated? Just success. I enjoy winning. I don't like losing. I still get that same kick and that same thrill every time I ride that winner, that same feeling of satisfaction and achievement. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't take into account. And I actually did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, which hasn't come out yet. And it's the first time I'd been asked this question, and I'd never thought about it before in my life. And he asked me, how many hours off the track do I put in to that one race? So we have 10 races here on a Sunday and 8 races on a Wednesday. And let's just say that those races go for 2 minutes. They don't go for that long, of course, but 2 minutes. So that's 36 minutes of racing per week. And if I added up the amount of time I spent at track work, barrier trials, all the personal training I do, you know, the physio, the form analysis that I have to do with the barrier trials and the races and getting ready for race day and all sweating in the bath and all that comes with it. I'm doing about 39 hours a week for 36 minutes of competition.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So there's a lot behind the scenes that go into just race day, which would be the same in every stable with the trainers and the staff, and they're the things that people don't think about. But you put a lot of hours in that you don't really get paid for.
So would the lure of a Melbourne Cup bring you back to Australia for a period of time, potentially later in your career, to try and achieve that while being in Australia and building a rapport with some of the... Obviously, there are more trainers in Australia that have runners that you could potentially get on, and it's not to say you're not highly sought after, but would that sort of draw you back to Australia at any point, or do you think you'll finish your days riding in Hong Kong?
It is something that I certainly considered a fair few months back when I was tossing up whether I would move back to Australia or not, and that was probably one of the number one reasons I put at the top of the moving back home list. But when I sort of weighed up everything, I just felt like Hong Kong is where I am.
Yeah.
We enjoy being here, and winning a Melbourne Cup, if I'm to move home, I'm still not guaranteed to win it.
That's very true.
Exactly. But I look at it, Zac, you know, when you first go there in 2007, it's a culture shock, right? And everyone knows that it's a culture shock to suddenly go and live in an apartment at the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and as you explained so well before, doing everything yourself and working it all out. It'd be a culture shock for your family to come back now. Like Nicole, I've read a lot of comments from her. She absolutely loves it there. You've had 2 kids there, Roxy and Cash. To bring them out of Hong Kong would be strange.
Well, they don't know any different, do they? They were born here, so they've grown up here and they were raised here. But, you know, we just spent some time back home in Sydney during the off-season, and they know we're going to be moving home soon. We're sort of trying to integrate them back into that. So they're wrapping their head around it. But, yeah, it will be a shock. They're not going to have a driver driving them around everywhere. They're not going to have a helper, as we call them here, doing everything for them. They just click their fingers at the moment and ask for something else to eat. So they're not going to be getting up when they get home,
my kids do that. There's no helpers, Zac, I can tell you. It never ends. But what is life like there for a family in Hong Kong? And back here in Australia, we just read about the really strict rules of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, about how the jockeys have to live and operate. Do you get a lot of freedom? Like, tell us about your life there.
Yeah, so of course the Hong Kong Jockey Club's the biggest organisation here in Hong Kong. They're the biggest taxpayer. So there are a lot of pressures that come with that, but they're good. Like, as long as we're turning up to work and doing the right thing, and going to the races and doing our job, and we're not causing trouble around the city, then we're pretty free to do whatever we want. So we ride track work 6 days, or I ride 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. I give myself Sunday morning off because we race Sunday afternoon. And of course, Wednesday night, we have barrier trials Tuesday and Friday. But outside of those things, we're free to do whatever we want. So we can go hiking, we can go on a boat, we can play golf, go for lunch, dinner, we can live a normal life. And that was one of the things that first hit me when I come to Hong Kong, was that I could be a jockey but still live like a normal person. Whereas in Australia, you're spending so many hours in the car traveling and going to the provincial meetings, even the city meetings, and you're traveling to track work. And, a lot of the time, some of these guys that had kids, they'd get up to go and ride track work. By the time they were home, the kids would be at school. They'd then go to the races. By the time they got home from the races, if they went to a provincial area, the kids might already be in bed. And that might go on for 2 or 3 days. So you don't see your family for a few days. Whereas here, I can duck home from track work, just space my rides around a little bit, say goodbye to the kids before they go to school. I'm here most of the time when they get home. If we're not out for dinner, playing golf, doing those types of things. And that's one of the things Nicole really enjoys about being here, is the family life, and that I'm around so often. Whereas she remembers growing up back home, how her dad was so busy, she didn't see as much of him as she wanted to.
We should tell everyone that her dad was Jim Cassidy, obviously, and we all know about his famous career and how much riding he did. I don't want to invade your privacy, Zac, but it looks like a fair apartment. I don't want you to show us it, but I want you to tell us that those trophies behind you, there's a lot of them. What are some of those?
Well, this one was when I rode my 1500th winner here in Hong Kong. The Jockey Club gave me that.
Is that the horse?
That one. Yeah, that's the horse, yeah. That's the Randwick Guineas. That one is Canterbury Stakes.
Oh, you got the Sydney ones there.
Yeah, well, we're getting a new cabinet built because I need more room for all the trophies.
It's not a bad problem to have.
No, that's right. It's a good problem. A couple of the jockeys actually were getting shitty with me there for a while, because I only keep the Group 1 or the big trophies, right? The ones that really matter. The other ones I sort of give away, and I was giving them to the kids in the playground, and they were going home saying, "Oh, Daddy, I got this trophy," and they ended up coming to the race and saying, "Listen, can you cut that out? You're making me look bad." So now the valet gets them, and people that come to Hong Kong get them, and I give them to people around the city. So
just one more thing on Hong Kong, probably people don't understand, and what you've touched on it briefly, is how close the relationship is between jockeys and not just trainers, but jockeys and owners. It's very much a part of Hong Kong racing, and probably
a lot of honor involved.
But they have Zac will touch on it, but they have intimate relationships with owners in Hong Kong, unlike a lot of Australian jockeys do with owners as much. So just give us some insight about the demands of the social scene in Hong Kong as well to build up those relationships.
yeah, well, COVID has sort of changed the landscape a little bit. They've got used to not seeing us as much as they were previously, and maybe I've been around for so long now that they don't need to see me as much as they used to face. But certainly, when I first arrived and up until COVID, I was going out for lunch or dinner, 3 to 4 times a week with them, just showing your face, building the relationship. Those types of things. But the owners are very important, because it is so easy for them to transfer a horse here in Hong Kong. So in a lot of ways, they've got more say about what the horse is going to do than the trainer does. Now, it depends which stable you're in. Some trainers have a lot more control than others, but if an owner tells a trainer he wants jockey A on his horse, and he puts jockey B or C on the horse and it gets beat, that's all the excuse he needs to put a transfer in the next day and send a new trainer down with a head collar to pick the horse up. So,
because they're all stabled near each other.
That's right. They're all stabled together, and all the stables are the same. So you can easily take a horse out of one box and put it in another. So, when the owner puts their foot down and they want to run a horse on a certain day because it's their birthday or their anniversary, or they've got a friend in town, then a lot of the time you've just got to run it. And if they want to pick a jockey, you've got to let them pick the jockey. So they've got a lot of control in this place.
Zach, I have to ask you about coming back to Australia, and I always marvel at you guys, and you come here and you ride on a Saturday, and then I'll turn the Sha Tin races on a Sunday afternoon, and there he is. There's Zach, or there's the Aussie jockeys. I can't believe you catch those red eyes. Is it a toll on you to come back to Australia for these big meetings like the Everest and the Melbourne Cup, the big Saturday meetings during the spring and the autumn?
Listen, it's not like sleeping in your own bed and not having to travel anywhere and just bouncing out like you normally would, but I actually enjoy doing it. I sleep well on the planes. I'm not a very big person, so I can lie down flat and I get a decent sleep. I enjoy seeing everyone back home. I enjoy being a part of the carnivals back there and riding the good horses in the big races. So I think I get more out of it than just sitting back here and watching it from here. And like I said, I enjoy it. And Hong Kong, in some ways, can get a little bit stale because we live on the race course. We go to the same training track every day. We have the same 2 meetings every week. There's the same horses, the same trainers, the same owners, the same everything. And you can just get into a little bit of a grind. So it can be a little bit refreshing getting on a plane, going to a new environment. It's like going for a holiday. You feel excited to get on the plane. You feel excited to be somewhere new. So it does invigorate you a little bit as well. But like I said, I enjoy doing it. So it's for me, it's
well, we like having you here. We like having you. Well, it adds, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The more big names, the better. Hey, Zach, the Melbourne Cup. Have you got a ride in mind yet? Have you been contacted by anyone?
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to ride Absurd for Willie Mullins, who's an absolute genius trainer. I've got so much time for him, so much respect. He's an amazing horseman. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's set this horse for the race. It's not his number 1 seed, of course, because he's got Vauban, who's the favourite for the race. But I think I'm on a really good second pick.
Absurd.
You should see his gallop. I worked there for 6 weeks. It's when it gets wet, his horses are swimming in the gallop. It's so deep. It's like his horses come out so rock hard fit. You just, if you're Zach, you're thinking this thing's going to run 2 miles plus.
He's going to do it. Hey, Zach, I know time's tight for you because you're going to go and jump on a plane. I just want to put you through a little bit of rapid fire. What's the best horse you've ridden in Hong Kong?
Beauty Generation.
Well, I won a stack.
Yeah, he was awesome. Well, he was the first horse to win over 100 million Hong Kong dollars in prize money. He won 10 races in a row. He held the record for the most Group 1s won. He actually held 2 track records, one over 1,400 and one over 2,200. Wow. And then he ended up a miler. So he was just an amazing horse.
Best horse you've ridden in Australia?
Oh, geez, that's a tricky one. Yeah, I don't know. We'll say Artorias, eh?
Artorias, yeah, good one. Who's been your biggest rival?
Oh, Joe Moreira by far. Mate, what a competitor, what a rider. He's so pretty to watch, naturally talented and gifted, such a strong-minded competitor when he's up and he's confident and he's in his groove. So he was great to watch.
Are you mates or rivals?
I'd say we're mates, yeah, and probably even more so now we're not competing against each other.
It's easier.
Exactly. It was an amazing rivalry for so many years. Your interests outside of racing, I've got to ask you about rugby league. I know you're really keen on your league.
Yeah, so I go for the Roosters, love them.
How does that happen?
Team, great organisation.
You're from Brisbane.
How does that happen? That's like blasphemy for a Queenslander.
Well, I'm not a Queenslander. This is the misconception, right? I was born in Lismore in northern New South Wales.
Oh, that's so close to the Queensland border, please.
That's where Israel Folau came from near there, didn't he? So he played for Queensland.
Greg Inglis. Greg Inglis from Maxville.
No, yeah. He came from Maxville. Oh, my God. Anyway, yeah. But the Roosters, you love them?
Yeah, of course. Great side. They're always competitive, so they're good. I go for the Swans in the AFL. Yeah, just a bit of a Sydney boy these days.
And in Hong Kong, your interests, you play golf. What do you do?
Yeah, I play golf. Not as good as I want to be. I find it quite a frustrating game. I probably play 2 good games a year and the rest of them are disappointing. But anyway, it is what it is. I'm trying to work on it. I'm trying to get better. And when I retire, that's what I'll be spending a lot of my time trying to perfect.
Oh, don't rush to retire then. I'll tell you what that's about.
Well, Will was a very promising golfer and is still a very good golfer.
No, only when I don't get given an official handicap. I need to play the
You can
field
play.
a little
We
bit.
know you can play, and it's a cliche, but you are a burglar. Well, Zac Purton, it's going to be a pleasure to see you in Australia over the Spring Carnivals. Thanks so much for spending such generous time with us. All the best to you and Nicole and Roxy and Cash, and we hope that the family comes back and you do ride in Australia for a season or two before it's all over.
Yeah, we'll see. But if light infantry ends up getting to the Cox Plate, the family's already going to be in Australia, so they'll come out to the Valley for that, and Nicole will get back down for the Melbourne Cup. So I'll have some travelling companions. But yeah, it's we'll see. You never know what the future holds. But it's been great. Good to speak to you guys, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
Yeah,
Thanks.
well, we know it's hard to get him because it 10% of 277 million Hong Kong dollars in a season. It's hard to lure a bloke back to Australia. Safe travels, Zac.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.